get started because we have 1 minute to 10. But thank you all for joining us this lovely Friday. Thank you all for posting your LinkedIn profiles and endorsing each other and connecting with each other. I'll just go ahead and get started with a few logistics. I'm Ashneil. You guys may be wondering, who's this weird guy talking to you? I'm the Outreach and Retention Chair of ASB, and it's my job to kind of facilitate events like this where we can connect you with each other and help you garner your skills. Just some quick FYIs before we begin. As seen in the slide, we are recording. So if you don't want to see your face later on in a recording, just go ahead and turn off your videos, that's all right. And then secondarily, our agenda is meant to be a little bit tight, and we've purposely made it a little bit tight so that, one second, let me just go ahead and move. We've purposely made it a little bit tight so that you can have all the time that you can use for questions. So from 1:10 to 1:15, we're having some quick introductions. 1:15 to 1:45, the presentation will begin. And 1:45 to 2 p.m., we're gonna have question time. Of course, you can ask questions as we go on along the chat. And once the presentation begins, Dean Gordon will take care of the screen, and he'll share his screen and present the PowerPoint as he sees fit. Now let's go ahead and introduce Dean Gordon right now. I'm so excited to announce that we have Dean Gordon with us today. He is an expert fundraiser, an expert event manager, and an expert alumni connector or engager. So if anybody knows about connecting with people, making relationships with people, it's Dean Gordon. And he's really fantastic at using something like LinkedIn. So I'll go ahead and give Dean Gordon the screen and let him share screen. I'll go ahead and stop sharing right now.
Thank you, Ashneil, and thank you all of you for joining and giving some of your time. Not required to be on screen, but certainly welcome. And this is meant to be interactive. Your questions are extremely important to me, that we're sure to address those. We're going to talk about LinkedIn, and I'm going to go through some of the basics with you. Am I a certified expert? No, but I've been around it for a long time. I think I joined in like 2006 because a young alumnus at the school I was working at turned me onto it when it was relatively new, and I've used it since. More importantly, for the last 20 years, I've worked in higher ed in very competitive environments, including a business school. And at each stop that I've taken, the outcome of our students, and by student outcomes, I don't mean graduation, I mean what you really came here to do, what you're looking to graduate to be able to be prepared to accomplish and go to work at, is extremely important to me and all of the institutions that I've worked at. And as such, I've seen every kind of networking. I've been to 1,000 receptions, events designed to connect students with alumni or alumni to alumni. And it's extremely important, but it can also be very stressful. And I think often students put a lot of pressure on themselves in these instances. And I'd like to pull that back a little bit. So in addition to talking about LinkedIn, we're going to talk about what that actually is. It is a digital extension of yourself and a digital space to conduct this networking. And so first off, and let me make sure this is working and I share the right screen. First off, I want to talk a little bit about, what exactly that means. And hopefully you're seeing one of my screens right now. This is a Google search for networking tips. And if you do this, for some reason, they all come with a number. 7 tips, 11 things you're doing wrong, 33 tips, 18 tips that you need to know. And what does all that really mean? If you boil out the networking and just read these lists and the do's and don'ts that we sent around before this, it's not just networking. These are guides to life and to being a good person. And I think it's easy to get pulled out of that because of the pressure that you're all under to graduate, to get that job, to get started, or that internship. It makes it often more than it actually is, which is connecting with people. And all of you who took the time and energy to join this forum today are networking with each other and with me. And if it's an easier way to think about it, it's seeding relationships. It's building relationships for the long term. And that should always be your focus. And that's why I wanted the title to speak to that you don't have to accomplish everything in one setting. Your job in coming here today is not to become a LinkedIn expert and get hired and become my best friend. It's to get to know me and to learn something that you can carry forward. So first, just kind of take a deep breath. And again, this is a collaborative space. It's Friday afternoon. I've been looking forward to speaking with you. And don't hesitate to ask a question, speak up, or dive into something that's troubling. So in our presentation, I want to cover the basics of networking in LinkedIn, how to use the tool and the core components of that to make sure that everybody leaves with some kind of understanding and the ability to create a profile, execute searches, manage their presence, and start to build visibility. We're also going to talk about etiquette, how these networking rules also apply to your everyday life, a little bit about the role of this platform, how you should use it, and what the key components are. And then we'll get into some of the details and leave plenty of time for your questions. So first, since we're talking about LinkedIn and networking, what is that really all about, and what does that mean? So we just mentioned it's an extension of yourself online. It's an opportunity to meet people and seed relationships, as you do all the time in your everyday life. And understanding that this is going to become increasingly important over time. If this year has taught us anything, it is that the digital representation of ourselves and our ability to connect in the digital world is only going to become more important and more the norm. That kind of physical connecting part will always be there and does kind of create a different level, but this is just something that you can't ignore. So you need to get comfortable both with using this tool, but also in your own ability to connect with people in a networking forum. And I almost hesitate to use that word because I don't want it to create additional stress. When Ashniel gave that overhyped introduction of me, take the word expert out of all those titles and fundraiser, event manager, engaging alumni. What that means is my job is to facilitate relationships between the institution and its stakeholders. And for most of you out there, coming to UC Berkeley is probably the first or one of the only decisions that you've made that you are going to carry with you for the rest of your life. I'm going to bring my page up here to get started on that. You will be a stakeholder, an alumnus, and a member of the UC Berkeley community for the rest of your life. And I argue it is alumni more so than the faculty, the staff, the administration that are the true owners of the institution, because you have that lifetime connection. Faculty member could be here for 30 years and win a Nobel Prize and then go somewhere else, right? We often associate them because their intellectual output, their personalities, their visibility, that's how we relate to the university. It is our alumni who are ultimately responsible. And I want to make this perfectly clear. Of the over 500,000 alumni around the world right now is a community that wants to help you. They want to help you. They're predisposed to help you. They share some of your experiences, your background, and your association with UC Berkeley. They're extraordinarily proud of that. They want to help you succeed. You have an army of people out there that have your back and are willing to go out on a limb for you, create opportunities for you. That comes with a responsibility to do that when you're in that position. And I know that seems like a long way off right now, and there's a lot of steps. It's going to come faster than you realize. A relationship is like any investment where you put your time and energy. It's a two-way street. And right now you're at a time of your life where you can draw out of that, where you can connect with people who are established in their careers, knowledgeable about the things that you want to do, and you can draw that out and benefit from it. The day will come when you hear from me or Oshniel, since he's going to continue to be a volunteer and work with me long after he graduates, asking you to open a door for somebody else. And that's about culture. So all those things that I do in my job, facilitate connections with the institution, try to drive support to our faculty and our students. Those are really about building a culture and a community. And for a long period of time, the culture at UC Berkeley was that the state of California would provide, and we just worry about what we do. And that was fine while it lasted, but there was one problem. It did not instill into the students and alumni that sense of ownership. And the example I like to use, if aliens came down from outer space that had no idea what UC Berkeley was, and they walked up to a random person on campus and said, who is responsible for this place? Somebody may say Carol Christ, they may say the UC Regents, and I don't think any of that is true. They hold the assets and the stewardship of the university in trust for the state of California, but also for you. You are the owners of this institution, and you will determine its culture. And is that what we're trying to get away from? That I fought my way through, I got out, now I'm on my own, and California will provide for the next generation? Or is it reaching back to do what I think is the greatest thing that a human being can do in their life, and that's help another person? So what do you want to take out of this? And what are you willing to put back into it? Because that day will come. And I wanted to stop and mention that because that gives a long-term view of networking and establishing relationships, not a transactional one. I need to connect with this person so they can give me a job. It's much more than that. And you have a responsibility to see it as more than that, because you are members and owners of this community, this institution, and the culture that we set. So just like you support each other and have each other's back and are connecting with each other, endorsing each other, giving each other guidance, advice, and support, you're going to be doing that for other students before you know it. And again, there is an army of people out there that want to do this for you. So when we approach this exercise, we keep that in mind, because I have a responsibility to strengthen this community and not just take from it. Even following through, doing what you say you're going to do, that's a way to pay back alumni who are giving of their time. And trust me, with many of our stakeholders, they reach a time in their lives where money is not their most valuable asset. It's time. Time is their most valuable asset, because none of us knows how much we have. I can look at my phone and tell you exactly what's in my bank account. I don't know how much time I have. So when they invest it in you, it's because they see the opportunity to get a return. So I wanted to make that perfectly clear. And because I'm going to be managing some flipping back and forth, I'm going to ask Debbie and Oshniel to keep focused on the chat and let me know if we need to stop, answer a question, or go a little bit deeper. So keeping our eye on our agenda here, we're going to go over some of these basics right now. Let me find where I put that list. Help you to create a profile, manage the settings, execute search. When we get to that point, I want a real example. So I'm going to ask you to let me know somebody you'd like to reach. Oshniel and I were speaking earlier today. He's looking at Genentech. I've already started to look through my contact base at Genentech to find out who I can connect Oshniel with. And I've got contacts there from 3 different jobs. So we're going to be able to make something happen. I want to know what's on your mind, and we'll use that as a live example so that you can understand how you can access what is embedded in LinkedIn that's searchable for you. And then, of course, how you manage and handle that. So number 1, creating a profile. And again, remember, I'm not an expert. I've just used it for a long period of time, and can help deliver the basics to you so that you can set this up and manage it, which is even more important. So the first thing in any profile is the picture, right? That's the first thing that we see. And we'll send a follow-up with a lot of links and additional resources, including this, where is it? This list, which I love. This was posted on LinkedIn by a user in the UK, and it's called the Crappy Handbook of LinkedIn Profile Pics. So don't fall into this trap. Your picture, your representation should reflect what you want to do. So if you're a creative, your picture should be creative. If you are going for a job in investment banking, then you want it to reflect that. It should be front on. It should be not something that you repurposed. Let's take a quick look at some of Dan's examples here. You know, you've got the stiff person. If that matches what you're going for, great. These people are too cool for school, so they have to act natural. That's okay. A party picture where you cropped out your friend or your partner, not so much. Immediately recognizable and doesn't reflect well. And there's some great commentary underneath it. The adrenaline accountant, you know, these action-packed photos, typically for people, as he says, really boring jobs. So they're using this like they would other means of social media, not just representing who they are, but probably who they want to be. That stuff is really transparent. Whether it's your qualifications, your description, or your picture, it doesn't matter if it's robust, and nobody is expecting you to have a 4-page resume right now. Make it honest and make it speak to you. So, you know, mine, I'm smiling because I like to have a good time when I'm working, and I like to smile, and I like to represent UC Berkeley. When you're creating this, you'll be able to select your picture, and you can Google the right sizes so you can find a picture that formats correctly. And then you can put your job title. Some people put a description if they don't want to be kind of pigeonholed down. If they're, rather than say marketing associate, they may say, you know, marketing maven, or, you know, digital strategy expert, whatever it may be. And it's fine as long as it speaks to you. When you start to fill in, you have an about section here. There was a question set ahead of time, either for this section or when you start to look at your qualifications, should that mirror a resume? And I say no, it should not, because it's not a resume. It's meant to be read quicker and give an overview and a description, not of every detail of your role there, but what you accomplished, what you focused on, and why that experience is meaningful or important. So I suggest smaller descriptions here that give the reader an indication of what your experience is, and not the tasks, but at the strategic level, what were you trying to accomplish? So you want to fill these out in order, and be sure to pay attention to the time range so it comes chronologically. If you have multiple positions at the same place, it'll group those together for you. You list, and you can choose which fields you want to have included here. So you don't have to have all the ones that I do. If you don't have anything to say in one section, just get it out of there. You don't need it. Add it later when you have something to speak to it. If there's a section that's really important, maybe you're going to work for a social nonprofit and you want them to know where you are active in the community. You want to add that. And if you don't have experience there, go find it. You have a network here all across the university. If you're going to be, you know, leading a social nonprofit or a social justice organization, if you don't have work experience that speaks to it, find it and put it in your volunteer experience. Especially at UC Berkeley, that should be manageable. I like to put where I spoke so they can see that I'm paying attention to my industry and working to be a thought leader and sharing what I know with others. Skills and endorsements. This is a give-get scenario. The more you do, the more you get back. And it is, you know, a nice endorsement, shows what you have. Just don't go crazy. I had somebody endorse me for something that I used to use as a joke, you know, conceptualizer of events, because we would make all these great events, and someone like wrote it and endorsed me. You don't need 1,000 of these things. What are the core pieces that are important to what you want to accomplish and what you want people to know about you? Asking for recommendations. Be careful here, because you don't want to make somebody feel uncomfortable. You should have an established relationship with them. The two that you're seeing here for me were people that I worked for, the dean of a business school and the senior vice president of an advancement organization. I had an established relationship. It made sense for me to ask them. So it didn't feel weird in the relationship. And then accomplishments is where you can brag about yourself. Interests not only say a lot about you and populate your feed, Also tell people about your intellectual curiosity. What do you follow? Now, this is the stuff like other social media platforms that's going to inform your ecosystem. What are you seeing in your news feed in addition to your connections from companies, organizations, institutions that are important to you? Liking it, sharing it, then it shows up out into your feed. It's just a really easy way to identify yourself with subject matter that's relevant to what you want to accomplish on this platform. This is not a social platform. It gets social. This is for business purposes. And if you read that article, which we'll share the link about profile pictures, he does a whole section of people that harvest their wedding photos. And they may be an account manager at Salesforce, but in their profile pic, they're in a tuxedo with a corsage. It doesn't look right. So make it fit. And this will populate what you see, what you can interact with, and how you can help tell your story of how you're engaged with the subject matter. I want to make sure not to forget any points here. Managing your settings and then search. We're going to jump to those. Visibility is really important. And when we go to settings and privacy as we build our profile, the one that I'm mostly concerned with right now is visibility. So if you're in stealth mode, you're looking to learn, you want to look at someone's profile to see what's there, but you're not sure that you want them to know that you're looking at the profile, you can manage that here. I'm in private mode right now, which means that if you look to see who's been looking at your profile, I'll show up as anonymous. I toggle that back and forth because sometimes I want the person to know that I'm looking at their profile. I want them to know that I'm interested in what's happening, and it may preface some other outreach. And you also don't have to connect with everybody. You can follow people, remember down by those interests, you can just click follow, they'll show up in your feed, you can interact with it, you can stay connected to what they're doing without having to make a formal connection if you don't think the relationship warrants it at that point. So this is really important in terms of how you will be seen looking at other people on the platform. Just to give you an idea what that looks like, you can change it to your full bio, a brief description, or anonymous. So pay attention to that, because when we go back to LinkedIn and I can be vain sometimes. So I'm wondering who's looking at my profile, and I click over here. This is where that becomes relevant. So how are you going to show up in this space? These people have tagged to different levels of anonymity. That's fine. Vertika wants me to join her advisory board and help with some business in digital advertising. So she wants me to know that she's checking out my profile. Another really important component to visibility, and I have to go to my profile here, is how you're seen to recruiters. LinkedIn is you are to LinkedIn almost as the average user is to Facebook. It's kind of like a commodity. They need to populate their site and have a dynamic and robust presence on there. I would say in many ways, it's really built for recruiters. And if I'm going to make an update to my profile, and I click over here, and I'm thinking of, open to right under my name. If I'm in search mode for a job and I click this, it's going to allow me to toggle a switch. Now I'm going to pop up to recruiters. And in my space, in higher ed, if I were to hit this button next week, I would be inundated by messages. Recruiters are all over this site, and they have a separate portal that just manages their business here. So quickly, or just ticking this button and then positioning your profile so it speaks. What are the key words that a recruiter is looking for in a profile? What type of education are they looking for? What are the other pieces? If it's, let's just say, it's a tech recruiter, because all the companies around here have in-house recruiting systems. What are they looking for? And how do I make sure I have that in my profile? So I come up on their search, and then you can tag this and they'll find you. There's a funny disclaimer here. If I was to click on that, it's asking me what type of work I'm open to, where I'm open to it. And they always make a disclaimer that says, we do our best to make sure your current company doesn't see this, but we can't guarantee it. So if you're working somewhere, you're looking to jump and you click that, remember that the company you work for might be aware, something to keep in mind. I want to make sure to get to search. If there are any questions on setting up your profile, and you see these pieces here, I've actually got my education out of chronological order. You can make it any way that you want, because the most recent ones, and even though they're not the most recent chronologically, the ones at the top of the list are the ones that are going to populate here in your description box. And these are my two biggest and most dynamic networks. So those are the ones that I want showing up in my description. So populating your content, you can also share media. You can write articles and publish them on LinkedIn, all kinds of activity. Here you see mine, and this is a chance for me to recognize people, share news and stories that also relate to our funding priorities or what I want people to know about UC Berkeley. You can look at my posts, what I liked, what I interacted with. And you can also do this if you're searching for somebody else. Look at their activity. And if I look at any of my posts, you can also get statistics of who's looking at that. How are people engaging that? Where are they? We gave a shout out to Ashniel because he's on my student advisory committee. He helps keep me connected to students and know how we can help them. And if I click here to see who's looking at that, well, I can see United States Attorney's Office. This is because an assistant United States attorney for Los Angeles, soon moving to the Middle East to work on cyber crimes, was looking at Ashniel's promotion and congratulating him. I can see where they are, what they do, and get insights for follow-up. All of this functionality is available in the basic version. You can get something called Sales Navigator, which is a whole add-on that allows you enhanced messaging opportunities, search opportunities. You really don't need that unless you're in a sales capacity and your employer should provide it for you. If you really start to accelerate on the platform, you can buy an enhanced service. Mostly what that does is improve your messaging functions. How many messages can you send and who can you send them to? If I can't find an email address or a way to connect to somebody, I'll go to LinkedIn and connect with them via a message. Be aware of your audience when you do this. And I tend to think the older somebody is, the less receptive they are to hearing from someone they don't know. That just means that you have to preface it in some way. So let me finish and come back to search. Connecting and visibility, that's here. You know, that's in your activity, what you're engaging with, how you manage your settings, how visible are you on there, and how often do you want to be coming up in other feeds and how active. It is easy to do, low time commitment, and really does help form an opinion of you, what you're sharing, what you're interacting with. And you can publish on here. I published an article a couple of years ago because the program that I built in the social sciences, I wanted to be resilient to economic and political downturns. Guess what? It happened. So that made me look pretty good because in 2017, I was talking about preparing for the bad times when things were going to get rough, and it all came true. So as it always does, I don't have any great insights. There's an economic downturn every 10 years. Now you all know the secret, a magic economic downturn predictor. Every 10 years, plan for 2 bad ones. So I wanted to speak to my foresight, share some of my knowledge, and share insights as to how people could insulate their programs against that. Unless there's any questions right now, or if I went too quickly over something, I would like to look at the search function. And if possible, to use a live example. So does anyone, either by coming live or through the chat, want to share a company or an industry that or an opportunity that they're currently pursuing that we could use as an example? Extra credit points for this as well. Okay, what do we have? Consulting. Andrew, any companies in particular of interest to you? And can you tell me what your major is? And I'm going to get this started while he looks at that. McKinsey or Bain? Great. Let's start with McKinsey Consulting. And if you wouldn't mind, if it's okay, I can use a dummy one if you don't want to, but if you, business administration. All right, fantastic. This is the dedicated UC Berkeley page on LinkedIn where they very conveniently house a lot of information for us. The most relevant to you, going to the alumni section. And using our example here we have 599,000 alumni in some form listed. They're not all, somebody may have gotten a certificate or some other things. You will find a little extra in here that you have to drill through, but it's a great place to start from. And Andrew is interested in consulting, so I'm going to start there. This is in the UC Berkeley forum. We're looking for any graduates who graduated any year in consulting. So we've narrowed it down to 78,300. Let's try to go a little bit deeper. Fantastic. I've got 259 people at McKinsey. So I'm going to click on that to narrow it down a little further. And that's going to give us a refined list of 259. And just because we know it, let's see who studied business administration and management. They may be extra receptive to connecting with Andrew because they share that home department. So if I click on that, now I have 43 people. Now I have a manageable list. Is it exhaustive? Is it everyone you need to know? No. But it's given you, in a matter of about 30 seconds, access to a group of people that you can sift through and plan your outreach or your connection. So here we see Itai Abelski is an associate at McKinsey, graduated in 2011. If someone graduated recently, don't overlook them. Somebody that's way down in their career may have less time to give to you. They may not even be aware of the recruiting process. Itai Abelski, he's just been through it within the last decade, and I'm sure he's eager to share insights with you. So you may see where you have a shared connection. This is my good friend and an econ grad named Nick Kim. He's the director of platform at Crosscut Ventures, the largest seed stage venture capital firm in Southern California. I could go to Nick and ask him for a connection to Mr. Abelski. That way I can get a warm intro. I can send Mr. Abelski a connection request. I could send him a message through LinkedIn. My first stop is always going through a warm connection. Is there somebody that can introduce me that I know? Because boom, you've cleared the first hurdle. They're going to, if it's coming from someone they respect and know, they're going to give you some time. So, you know, Andrew, we can talk after this. You should play with this. And if you find anybody you and I should connect, and if I come up as a connection to anyone here that you want to reach out to that you think can help, then let's make it happen. So you can see virtually in this functionality, you could find almost anything that you wanted. That's the value of this massive alumni network. It's really incredible. So whether they're at McKinsey or other companies, Andrew has some really warm leads. So question just came through the chat. What would a warm connection look like? And I'm going to stop sharing so I can talk to you easier for a second here. A warm connection is thinking about how you want to execute that. Please read that list of do's and don'ts. It didn't just come out of the sky and we didn't pull it off of the internet. It was run by my student advisory committee, an alumnus who works in business development for Honeywell named Daniel Berendt. And it's based on that 20 years of experience. And let me illustrate an example for you, because I've seen things that would make your skin crawl, and I've seen students take themselves out of the game instantly. If it feels uncomfortable, don't do it, right? If you're not sure about sending that message or that connection, don't do it. Ask for advice. Find somebody that's maybe closer to you or that you know, and ask about making that approach. Please internalize that list, because remember what I said, it's not just do's and don'ts of networking. They are rules of life.
Yes, but
rules of life, how to show respect to somebody, and imagine how you want to be treated. So if you are sending a connection request to somebody you don't know, include a note and explain why. This is why I'm reaching out to you. I know a lot of younger alums, send that without even thinking about it. They'd fire off the connection request, and that's fine if the person is receptive to that. Again, remember, where are they on that age continuum? People of my batch, or maybe older, they're less receptive to connect to somebody that they don't know. They definitely want to know why. And remember, the why is not to get a job, or could you get me this job? Could you introduce me to that person? The goal is to make a connection, and there must be a reason. This is why I want to reach out to you. This is what I'm looking to get out of it. And it's an ask. Be respectful. Remember what I said. In many cases, the person that you're connecting with, their time is more valuable than their money, and they're very careful of how they use it. And with the last couple, before we go to Q&A or dive back into anything that you want to look at again, remember that it's easy to break early on, right at the beginning. And again, why that shouldn't create more pressure on you is because you don't have to accomplish everything right there. You're looking to get to know somebody. Remember what I said in our network. They want to know you. They want to help you. What they don't want is to get burned. And I've seen MBA students, I think were the worst at this at the institution I worked at, and they would fire off 1,000 emails or connections or LinkedIn messages. As they came back from alumni, they would say, well, I really don't want this one. I'm really not interested in that one. Oh, this one I'm interested, I'll answer that one. So 20 people who may have said, okay, I'm gonna, this is somebody from my school, they need help, I'm gonna write back. They write back to offer help and then never hear anything again. Not only did you waste that person's time, remember what I said about being part of this community and culture. You burn that bridge for the people coming after you. We can't do that. And you don't want to be in that position when you're on the receiving end of those requests. Always follow up. If you take nothing else from this, you can learn how to use LinkedIn in a lot of different sources. If you take nothing else away, always follow up. Use someone's time with respect and care. Because remember, they want to help you. And Ashneil knows this story. It's one of my favorites because these guys fell flat on their face and they cost themselves in this instance. When I worked at the business school, we used to do a meeting with our advisory board in the spring in New York City. And part of that meeting were student teams in the dean's class, one credit course, how to improve the school. Any idea you want. Form teams, come up with an idea. Narrowed it down to finalists, and they presented to our advisory board. It was some of the most fun meetings that you were ever at because these students are brilliant. And after a presentation, one of my donors was walking through the lobby. He can never sit still. He had an insurance company down in Atlanta that he built from nothing, grown on its own revenue. $600 million a year enterprise at this point. And he would always hire our students. And he walked up to these three young men who were lounging by a table after their presentation in the lobby. And he said, hey guys, my name's Dan. I got a company down in Atlanta. Here's my card. I loved your presentation. Any of you want to talk or get to know me or come down to Atlanta and see my company and see what jobs are available? I'd be happy to fly you down and get to know you. Oh, thanks a lot. That's great. That's great. I'm in Atlanta 2 months later meeting with Dan on a gift. And I asked him what happened. And he said, none of those guys ever emailed me. None of them emailed him back. I wrote those students and I said, I just need to understand. Can you tell me why you never wrote Dan back? And the consistent answer was he had an auto insurance company. And they said, I'm not interested in insurance. And I said, either is Dan. This guy lives in South Beach most of the week, commutes to Atlanta for a job at a company he owns. You think he cares that deeply about auto insurance? He cares about risk management. He cares about growing a company. He cares about doing it the right way, right? It's a numbers game to Dan, and he loves that exercise. And my question back to them was, whether or not you care about insurance, why would you not want to know Dan? Dan can help you in your life. Is he ever going to return any of their calls again? No way. Not going to happen. His time's too valuable. I would have done it just for the trip to Atlanta and to learn more about his company. Don't do that. Don't do that to someone's time that offers to help you. Remember, I work in a space where we see, last year, $1 billion in commitments raised for this university. Every one of those was an expression of someone's desire to help somebody else. The greatest thing that you can do is help another person. And when someone offers to help you, take care with that. And again, that's the most important thing of this presentation. So that leads to my last notes are about etiquette. And really, it just boils down to respect. If it feels uncomfortable, don't do it. Put a message with your outreach, with your connections. Why? Why do I need to talk to you? And the answer isn't because I need a job. It's because you have expertise at this company, this industry. And I would love to learn more about that, learn more about the role. I always say, if there is an open position at that, Ashneel's made it easy. He's looking at potential positions at Genentech or others. That gives me something great to reach out to because he's already done the homework. He's not gonna write them and say, oh, I'd love to work there. What jobs do you have available? 1 million people work at that company. They could have 500 jobs on their board right now. It's your job to look at that and tell them what you need, okay? And they want to help you. And they will if you do it the right way. So let's take a break there and see what questions we have, or if anything around creating a profile, building your visibility, or executing search wasn't clear that you want to ask about. And this is an open forum. I should also say, we are going to share resources with you after this. Debbie Kelly, who works with me, who's on this call, is going to help me and Ashneel to send a follow-up message from this forum. You gave your time and your energy to be here. So in my book, you are entitled to a little extra level of my time. So any way that I can help you fashion that profile or improve your visibility or meet the people who can help you achieve your dreams, I'm going to do, okay? And everyone on this call, connect with me. I will connect with you, and my 2,000 plus contacts now become available to you, okay? One other teaser, Ashneel figured this out, and hopefully everyone else does. Around this university, I'm not the smartest person. I'm not the most successful. I'm not the most interesting, but I'm somebody that students should want to know, because as Debbie can tell you, I spend all my time running around the country and on when we're able to do that, and on Zoom with our donors, our alumni, our volunteers, the people who want to help you. And I will make those connections available to you if you do right by me. And you've put the work in today. So congratulations to you. And I'm looking forward to helping you with that and making that opportunity available to you. We'll also keep this list because they reach out to me. My firm's posting an internship, a job. We're looking for candidates in this. The first people I send those to, my student advisory committee members and people who participate in the career forums that we put on like this. So you're first in line just for showing up today. Okay. Any questions? You must have questions, things you're worried about networking, meeting somebody, beginning a relationship. Let other people have the same question. So let's hear it.
Just a quick addition to that. Thank you, Dean Gordon, for your presentation. Really appreciate it. It was great. I just wanted to direct your attention to the surveys we have on the chat. That's the feedback survey. We'd love it if you guys could fill that out before you all leave, if you guys end up leaving before question time. Thank you again. And I'll open it up to questions.
Definitely. And I'm quickly looking at my list. I want to see what ones kind of came in early that may be relevant, but much more fun to take live. Remember, this is my 4th presentation today and the one I was looking the most forward to. So I would love to hear from you. Anyone have any experiences they wanted to share that either worked or didn't work out well? Because I'm happy to share more horror stories if that's a representative example. But I really can't say enough. It's the same rules of life, you know, being a good person. And I should say a comfort level with yourself and putting yourself in the proper perspective. Where I've seen it be really uncomfortable at an event, somebody kind of, you know, entering a conversation at an event. That's hard to do. A circle of people that are talking, they all look successful. There's people there that you want to meet. How do you break into that without it being uncomfortable? It's always going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but take the pressure off yourself. Breaking into that conversation doesn't mean becoming everybody's best friend and getting a job. It means participating in that conversation. And they're there, whatever that event is, because they want to engage with you. So Where it gets uncomfortable is like sidling up and then not saying anything and just kind of listening. Look for a break point and just introduce yourself very quickly. And the more comfortable you are with yourself, the more that will project out to others. Again, that's like a really magic time. Like before you came to UC Berkeley, you didn't know the people that you were going to form relationships with that are going to be with you for the rest of your life. Like it has to start somewhere. So be comfortable with yourself. And that means I know what I want, what I'm looking for, what I want to get out of this interaction. I know who I am and what I've done. I'm not trying to be something that I'm not. And I'm not trying to impress people for the sake of impressing people. Remember, they want to know you. They want to help you. So take the pressure off, be comfortable. And just, hi, my name is majoring in,
Dean Gordon, there's a question in the chat.
Great.
What do you think about applying to jobs through LinkedIn?
Great question. I think you can also auto-generate a resume off of LinkedIn. Again, I don't recommend that, because your profile should be different than what your resume looks like. I think you just want to do your research. If there is a portal to apply directly through LinkedIn, and you're going to do that for convenience, a lot of companies do that. That most likely is going to vacuum in your profile. So be really careful about what that looks like and what's on there. Remember, it's not a social platform. Unless, if you are work for a social justice organization, it's expected that you would have a lot of that, on your feed, or if that speaks to who you are and relevant to your job. Just don't try to be something that you're not, and understand that profile is going to carry over. I would probably go to the company's website and look through the job portal there. But on either places, look for the keywords. What are they asking for? And is that in my profile, and is that in my resume, so that it comes to the top of the pile via their algorithm? So I wouldn't do it quickly just because it's convenient. You got to do your research. I would try to ask people about that job before I did it. What makes a resume stand out in this? What are they looking for? How do I position myself? I would prefer to go directly through the company's website with my resume and cover letter, but they may only have it listed on LinkedIn. That's probably the only time that I would do it.
Go ahead and unmute yourself if you have any other questions, guys. Free forum.
Is there anyone here that doesn't have a LinkedIn profile or haven't used it at all?
I actually just opened my LinkedIn profile like a week or two ago. But I think it's because of the points you were speaking to. I don't want my interactions with other people to be transactional. I also want to make sure that I am giving back to them. So I really appreciate that you spoke to those points.
Great. And, as you populate that and, beef it up, you will let me and this group know, if you need more help. It's something that, I do in the morning and in the afternoon to just check to make sure. It's so easy to just appear, and be in the conversation. My favorite thing to do with it is to celebrate excellence of others, our faculty, our students, awards and honors or great successes, because it allows you to kind of bring the community, and you remember with the @ sign, you can tag organizations, individuals, companies, to involve them, in that celebration. When I gave Ashniel a shout out for his research assistant position at Goldman, I tagged all of UC Berkeley, because we should all celebrate that. We're all behind him, and all of you. So that's my favorite. My least favorite thing is the humble brag. I'm so humbled to be selected as the Northern Illinois 30 under 30, whatever, in a picture. It's because it's dishonest, right? They're not humbled by it. They're posting it for the whole world to see. And that's okay. I'm just careful with that. That's just my personality. You should definitely celebrate yourself. I would be more likely to go to Debbie in the office in the morning and say, hey, Debbie, I just won this award. You should talk about that. So I don't have to. But, having others celebrate, it's your personality. It's what you want to come across. It's just, the more genuine it is, I think the more weight it carries, as opposed to, trying to be something, or to build yourself up. And if I was going to get some big award and I was going to post it on LinkedIn, I would probably make that post about, announcing it and thanking my team who made it possible. Share success. It will come back to you. Looking at some of the questions that you sent in advance, should you include a description under each experience? I think so. And again, not every detail or bullet points. What did you try to accomplish? And I think I even have a few to catch up in my own profile for descriptions. And so I have to pay attention to that and refresh it. I have an about section that I'm due to refresh and talk about, more about what I'm doing right now or what's important to me right now, which probably greater than any other point in my career is relative to social justice, structural inequality, and how we make an even playing field across systems. So that's something that I'm interested in engaging with and developing partners on the platform. How do we connect with people without seeming disingenuous or fake? Well, that's, the answer to that, right? Be honest. And if you're connecting to me, I just want to know why. And if it's because I can help them understand how to engage with the UC Berkeley alumni community, good enough for me. Let's connect. I also didn't mention the groups, finding groups to be a part of. There's a good chance for your school, your major, they have a dedicated group. That's a community within a community. Seek those out and join those. We help with a few. Political economy, we help to create some groups. Those have become dynamic networking forums and ways for us to carry messaging across. So definitely check that out and engage, because you'll find no matter what you want to do or what your background, there's groups on there that you can join and people that will help you. I know we're coming up on 2. Ashnil, you keep me honest on time. I am willing to stay on as long as there is a question.
Thank you. I think just keeping in track with everybody else's time would end it just right here. But if you'd like to, or if you can stay over, ask any questions, or just connect with us later on. But just wanted to once again express my gratitude to you from everybody that's here towards coming to this event and kind of enlightening us about LinkedIn. I really appreciate it once again.
I thank you, as always, for everything that you do. You heard me mention my student advisory committee. These are a group of rock star students that work with me in my office to help us keep connected with students and facilitate our connections with alumni. As part of our follow-up from this, Debbie and I will include, we're going to create a form so that people can apply. And if anybody that is on this call is interested in learning more or joining that team for next academic year, again, by way of participation in that event, you will be welcome to submit that through the form and join our team next year. And there was one question about working at a juvenile or foster care system or organization. Is that provided within LinkedIn? Absolutely. Every kind of work industry that you can imagine is represented in here in some way. I would look, if I was going to go to an organization like that, I would look for alumni in that UC Berkeley search area that were on boards of organizations that do advocacy or work in that space. Those are going to be very knowledgeable, well-connected people that can help tell you about what kind of opportunities exist to do that work, in addition to people who are actually doing it. But it will definitely be on there.
Thank you so much, Steve Gordon.